you. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the November 28th, 2023 Committee of the Whole meeting. Mayor Bage is absent today, so as Deputy Mayor, I will be chairing the meeting. And with that being said, I will call the meeting to order. So, adoption of the agenda. Do we have any changes, amendments? Councillor Hutchinson.
Yes, I would like to add in closed session, FOIP Section 23, local public body confidences.
No issues with that from anybody? Anybody else? No? Okay. Ready for a motion? Councillor Phillips?
Yes, I'll make a motion that we adopt the agenda as amended for today's meeting.
Thank you. Okay, any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, we'll call it to a vote. All in favor and none opposed. That is carried. So we have no delegations today. Adoption of previous minutes. Did that look okay to everybody, the minutes that were there from the last meeting? Councillor Schipul.
I also move the minutes as presented.
Okay, thank you for your motion. Those in favor and none opposed, that is carried. And now we will go down to 6, old business, RFD, industrial land and highway commercial lots. And we have Mr. Schwader and Mr. Hartling here with us.
Good evening, Deputy Mayor and Council. Mr. Hartling and myself are here before Council just with our RFD in regards to what available industrial land and highway commercial lots are located within the town limits of Rocky Mountain House. I included a map, a general map of the 19 different locations, and I've broken them down into individual lots as far as with information on the size of them, assessed value or the listed price. And so as far as discussion wise, I don't know how you want to proceed in regards to, if you have any questions regarding the lots, how we want to proceed in regards to industrial land, whether we get into the industrial land development or we just let private developers drive the market. So.
Councillor Schipul.
Deputy Mayor, if I could. I just have I think it's a good starting place, this list. I have a few add-ons to that list that I think we may have missed. And I think this list is great because when people come by and look for properties such as this, often I'm scratching my head and getting slivers because I can't figure out where I'm at. So anyway, if I can add some lots to it.
Sure.
Reg Radford has 2 highway commercial lots found on 61st Avenue. There's a for sale sign on them right now that aren't on the list.
Right. And they've taken the sign down.
Oh, is the sign
Yeah,
down?
the sign is down there presently, yeah.
Okay. So some of these don't even have signs on them.
Sure.
So.
Yeah.
There's one over by Pudgy's. There's that lot in there that they may or may not, well, they will sell it if somebody comes along. The empty lot there. Carrington O'Brien has 2 lots to the south of their store where they were going to build a complex at, and now there's some people are looking at buying it or for a new building on there right now, but that land is available. There's 2 lots there. There's a lot by Canadian Tire, between Canadian Tire and the green store, the yellow store, whatever it is. There's by the liquor store, there's an empty lot in there.
Okay.
It's about 2 acres. And then there's a lot between the Husky and the Fast Gas. Where they're going to put the mud hut originally.
Yep.
And then east of the turbo site, or what used to be the old turbo site, it's on your list of ones here, but there's old residential houses in there. And all those people who own all those lots are interested in selling those lots together if at all possible. So I'm not sure. I think that where the Cardinal coach lines used to be or is.
Correct, and there's 2 vacant ones beside that,
Yeah,
which is
and
on
then
the
there's a
list.
couple houses in there.
Yeah, and there's a couple houses between them and the
there's-
vacant one to the west.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so just, if we got a list and that way somebody knocks on our door, we have something that we can look at. The more options, the better, I think. So those are the ones on the list that I've used before, or told people of, so.
Thank you, Counselor. Does anybody else have anything? Counselor Alt?
Just a question for Councillor Schipel. Are those lots actively for sale, or are they're just privately owned lots and they'd sell them if,
Which lots are you referring
the
to?
ones that you've added to the list,
I pretty much know they're all for sale.
but they're not on the market?
They're not on the market.
Okay.
There was just an offer on the ones in behind the old turbo site that fell through. The Pudgy's one, there was somebody looking at that for a car wash in there, so, if you knock on their door, they definitely are.
Counselor Phillips?
Yes, thank you. So just looking at the list and even the additional properties that Councillor Schipel had talked about, there's not a lot. Like there's very, very little, how do I put this nicely? There's very little that we have to offer someone that's coming in from a different area looking to put up a business. I guess the question before us is, are we happy with what's available and then leaving it up to private landowners to potentially develop? Or is this where we start getting into the discussion of, you know, the town looking at partnering up or creating something that we can make happen with a developer? You know, there's just not a lot of desirable locations and properties available that if someone wants to move a business to town, that we have a lot to offer them in the way of land. So I would like to have the discussion on what we can do to create more inventory for businesses coming into town, potentially a subdivision of some sort.
Counselor Schipel?
Councillor Phillips, I totally agree with you. We have a lot of, we have what would appear a lot of inventory. It's not type A lots, so they're all type B and C lots. They're not prime. I do think that we need to move more into the type A prime lots, and I totally agree with you and support if we can figure that part out. I think that would be an awesome move, so.
Counselor Hutchinson?
I guess my thoughts on this is what are council's thoughts on what direction we're going, and what are we putting forward to admin to do? What is our plan going forward? Like, this is great information, but what's our next step? And what is our vision, and how do we relay that to what staff can help with or move forward with? Where are we going with that?
Counselor Phillips?
I mean, just quickly looking at this map, I'm, you know, looking at properties 7, 10, 12, 13, 14. I think those would be places to start and have conversations with those individuals that do own those lots, and find out what their plans are, what we can do to help them with their plans. And I think that's a first step. You know, the other ones are already, most of the other ones on this list are already existing lots that are serviced either with buildings on it or no buildings on it. But those, you know, 7, 10, 12, 13, 14, those are the ones that could potentially have you know, some would be highway commercial, but definitely you could have multiple lots ranging in various different sizes that we could, you know, market out to individual businesses. But I think that's a place to start and have the conversations and see what they can do and what we can do to assist them.
Counselor Schipel?
Deputy Mayor, I agree. I think we've put plans in place in the last 12 months to help entice growth in our community. And I'd question how many of these people with these numbers that you're just referring to are totally aware of what we can do as a community or what we have in place. So I think along with knocking on their door, talking to them about what the incentives are, seeing if they know anybody, just do whatever it takes to try to get something pried loose someplace. Hopefully we've made, or, you know, some of the initiatives we've taken as a council will allow that to happen. So I think as a go-forward point to Councillor Hutchinson is we knock on doors, tell them what we have, and see if we can jar anything loose.
No, I agree with that. I have a question on Mud Lake. I'm just wondering, with the 47.67 acres, does that include the lake itself, or is that just? Okay, I was just curious. Thanks. Anybody else? Counselor Ald.
If I'm not mistaken, administration has done that. You and Jeff have gone and knocked on these doors and you've talked to them in the past, recently in the past.
Within the last 18 months.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And was there any positive feedback from those conversations?
Some of the main, some of the main feedback was things that we put in place since then, the incentive programs. Lots are just sitting, see what's gonna happen. And some, yeah, everything's for sale, if the right buyer comes along type thing.
Counselor Phillips.
Just what Councillor Schipple had mentioned about our new tax incentives that we have in place, the deferring of the offsite tax levies. I would like to see that conversation reopened with them, saying, here's what we have to offer. What are your plans for these pieces of land? Sorry, number 19 should be in that list as well. And what can we do to help? Like, what can we do as a town to help? Would it take some skin in the game to make you, to help you develop? Would it take a partnership? What would the ideal situation look to make something happen? Just so we're aware of, of all of these lots and this land, what it would take to make it develop. Maybe the price is too high and that's something that we may not consider. Maybe it's something we will consider, but unless we ask the question on what they need from us to make that development happen, I think that's the first question is, what do they need? What do they need from the town?
Counselor Ald.
Thanks, Deputy Mayor. I think we need to narrow the list down to 2 or 3 areas that we want to really focus on. 13, 14, 19 would be what I think would be Class A lots, using your definition. I think if we focus on those type of areas first and really try and go down that rabbit hole to see whether or not we can make something happen, whether we can entice them to develop or how we can help them. But if we focus our efforts on 1 or 2 areas, instead of just trying to do a blanket, let's do them all, I think would be a little more useful.
Agree with that. Counselor Hutchinson.
I guess I still kind of struggle with where does that fit into our role. I understand that, it's we want to promote our community and build growth and whatnot, but, if staff has approached them in the last 18 months and are coming up empty, how do we, what do we, as council, put forward to have their job become successful?
Counselor Ald.
I think that goes back to whether we decide to have some skin in the game, like Councillor Phillips said. If we're willing to do a partnership with them or assist in development for infrastructure. I don't know if we've really gone down that road. I think we as council need to make that decision whether we're gonna get involved or we're not. And we haven't in the last 20 years and nothing has happened, so. I think we need to be willing to get out of the rut we've been in and get more involved in that.
Counselor Phillips.
Thank you. Yeah, I completely agree with that. It's something that has been too long in coming, and we need to look at it. And if we truly want the town to prosper and grow and attract new businesses, something needs to happen. Something needs to change. The status quo just isn't working. So we need to be creative, think outside the box. Looking at 13, 14, and 19 for sure are ones we should talk to. But I do believe number 7 and 10 is the same landowner. So I don't see where, you know, at least having a conversation with them would hurt. Just because it is the same landowner, and that's quite a bit of land, and number 7 would be highway commercial on Highway 598. I just believe any conversations with, you know, whether we had one 18 months ago and today, things change in 18 months. Developers have different mindsets, different goals. Maybe they're finishing up a project in another community and now they're looking for a new project. We don't know until we have that conversation with them. So I think it's something that, even though we have had conversations with them, we need to keep having those conversations and keep the interest in Rocky Mountain House at the forefront of their minds.
And I think too, now that we have made those incentives, it's definitely worth having that conversation. Councillor Schipel?
Yeah, I think it goes back, Councillor Hutchinson, the squeaky wheel gets the grease, and if we are on their case all the time, showing them that we are keeners, I think we may be surprised what that attracts. So these new incentives are all new in the last 8 months. Let's go back and knock on the doors and keep on them and see what we can get. Doing nothing is going to get us nothing. So doing something will hopefully get us something. So.
Councillor Hutchinson?
Absolutely, I don't disagree, and I don't want to sound like I'm negative about it, because I definitely would like to see growth as well. I just, like I said, struggle with where we fit as council in getting the information out there and how that works. I want to just make sure it's clear and that we have a plan in place going forward, and we're not revisiting and having staff go back and do this, and then it comes back to us in a year from now and we've gotten the information, but we've done nothing with the information.
Councillor Schipel?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. To Councillor Hutchinson, I totally agree with that. I think our strategic plan gives us the direction we need when it comes to economic development. So the overlying fact there is that our strategic plan allows for us to push forward, try to come up with something. I agree with Councillor Phillips when he said, do we need to get skin in the game or don't we? We need to look at everything we can. We can't delay because we will get nothing new in our community. So we have to work on finding some Class A sites, and I agree with Councillor Auld as well. So
I think what I'm hearing is we've narrowed it down to a few lots, and we're looking for admin to maybe speak with those landowners again, just let them know about the incentives that we have and if there's anything we can do as a town to aid in development of those lots. So I guess, committee of the whole, so we don't do, it's a rise and report, is that what we're looking to do?
No, Deputy Mayor, it's still at this level, so you can instruct administration to approach the owners of greenfield sites to advise them of council's recent incentives and ask if the municipality can do anything to help them to develop. And we bring a report back to council by
Okay, thank you.
February, March. So.
Okay, sounds good. So if there's no further discussion, does anybody want to make a motion? Councillor Auld?
I will make that motion that Mr. Kroos had just so eloquently verbalized. Yeah, I would make the motion that administration goes back and talks to the Class A landholders and have that discussion with them, and then see whether there's any additional resources that the town can provide to assist in development or sale of land.
Thank you for your motion. Any discussion on the motion? Okay, I'll call that to a vote. Those in favor and none opposed, that is carried. Thank you. So moving on, 6.2, we have an RFD bylaw 2023/14 council procedural bylaw. Mr. Kraus?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. So council has asked on 2 occasions to make revisions to the procedural bylaw. So administration has drafted those changes for council to review tonight. And I can run through them if council so desires. So going through the procedural bylaw, under definitions, we've deleted the definition for committee of the whole because it's a change of name to governance and priority meeting. So we have a definition of governance and priorities committee. And it references the section in the procedural bylaw that establishes it. And then plus Schedule B, which sets out the terms of reference for the governance and priority meeting or committee. And if you move to section 4, so 4A is an amendment to the procedural bylaw where council meetings would start at 9 a.m. versus 1. And then under subsection 2, council asked to delete the clause of requiring a resolution to go beyond 4 hours, so that has been stricken out. And then in section B, it's just a, change of name from committee of the whole to governance and priorities committee. And then a change of time from 6 o'clock to start at 5.
Councillor Phillips? Sorry,
Yes,
Mr. Krause.
thank you. Yeah, I'm fully in support of 4A1, changing the time to 1 o'clock and removing the 4-hour two-thirds majority vote to extend time. On section 4B1, I'm just throwing this out there to see what the appetite is, as moving that from 5 o'clock to 1 in the afternoon. That way we're not having staff here beyond normal working hours to have meetings. Just seeing what the appetite is for the rest of council to have that as a 1 o'clock meeting as opposed to a 5 o'clock meeting.
Councillor Alt?
I brought that up before. I think I would be in favor of that. It just, the amount of attendance that we have to our meetings is very low for personal attendance. And with all our live streaming and whatnot that we do, I don't think there's any problem with going to 1 o'clock. I'd be in favor of that.
Councillor Schiffel?
I'd be okay with moving to that, and then I have a question on something else after.
Okay.
I'll come back.
Councillor Hutchinson?
Yeah, I'd be fine with moving it till 1 o'clock as well. Like Councillor Alt said, they're live streamed, people are watching whatever time they choose. So I'd be in favor.
I would be in favor of that as well. So I think we're okay with that. I think we can continue, and then Councillor Schiffel, when you have a question, unless you want to ask it now.
I'm just looking for clarification under section 9A5. And in these meetings, and anywhere I read in here, it looks like if we have a delegation in here, the chair can ask that person at any time to speak, or if there's somebody in here. I was under the impression you had to be a delegation and be on the agenda. It then goes on in section 38 to reference it again. So the question I have is, in our procedural bylaw, can the chair ask anybody for input during the course of a meeting, even if they're not a registered delegation at a council meeting?
No. And that's normal procedure for council.
Okay, because I tried to find that in here. And then section 915, it says that the chair can reference somebody else in the room. Let me just find that.
Oh, so it says decide who, aside from councillors, may address council.
Yes.
So typically that's administration. It's not clear there by any means.
No, it's not clear. And then it goes on in section 38 and makes the same kind of reference in 38 as well. So just the way I read that, it means that if all of a sudden we have a group of people sitting in here and somebody wants to talk, the chair can actually address them to talk, is what I get out of that. So just questioning. I mean, if it needs more clarity, because all of a sudden we could have a free-for-all in here if we start taking people from the floor.
Yeah, Deputy Mayor, that's correct, and that's why it's not allowed typically, like under Robert's rules in this procedural bylaw, because you don't want everyone, the public, or anyone in the room just interfering with council's business.
does it need clarification, or are we good to go? Sorry,
Counselor Hutchinson.
Madam Chair, if I can to Mr. Kraus. Does this need to have further clarification, or is it good the way it is?
Deputy Mayor, that's actually up to council of how you interpret the bylaw. If all of council is interpreting it that way, then you're fine. Or if council wants clarification, we can draft it in.
Madam Chair,
Yes?
if I could, can we just change it and just change wording in there that somehow that it's administrative inquiries or something in that effect, that it doesn't allow for the chair to ask questions of people in the room?
Counselor Hutchinson.
I didn't interpret it like you did. So I'm fine with it the way it is, but if I'm okay if you feel that it needs clarity with making the changes, but I don't feel it's crucial that we change it, my opinion.
Counselor Phillips.
When I read this, I didn't interpret it that way. However, I didn't have that question asked until now, which now makes me wonder, could it be, like, is there potential that someone may interpret it that way? And maybe it might not be harm just to have some different wording, just to clarify that it's admin and council.
Yeah. I don't think it would hurt.
I hadn't even thought about that until Councilor Schipel brought that up, that it may be interpreted a different way.
Yeah. I don't think it would hurt anything to just get a little bit more clarification there. Okay, we okay to continue?
Okay, thank you, Deputy Mayor. So we jumped ahead to section 9. But that was the next one on the agenda anyway, or the next, so you'll see through the document, just Committee of the Whole has been changed to Governance and Priorities Committee. So that takes us to section 13J. So at council's request, subsection 1 of J, when a councillor discussing a subject matter and no motion is on the floor, that has been striked out. And that's because we've changed actually further on the procedure of council because there's discussion now before a motion. So it coincides with that section. And the next section is 15. So it's just reworked for the way I understand council wants to operate. So that's procedures to present items for council consideration. So it gets a little bit more defined. So A, the CAO or delegate presents the agenda item to council. B just clarifies if it's a notice of motion from a councillor, the councillor will present the item. C is saying upon conclusion of 15A or 15B, council may have a discussion on the agenda item. The discussion shall be limited to providing additional information related to the agenda item or providing alternative decisions not provided in the report. So it kind of limits that discussion to what the issue is. And then D, once every council member has an opportunity to provide input on the agenda item, a councillor member may make a motion to council to debate.
Thank you. Counselor Hutchinson.
On item D in there, I would like to add something in there. Once council member has had the opportunity to provide input on an agenda item, if they choose to provide input, the council member may make a motion for council. I just feel that we've been put in positions when we've had discussions where it's been said, we'll go around the room and each counselor has the opportunity to speak. I don't like that pressure. There may be an item or a topic that I just choose not to voice an opinion on or have a discussion on. So I just, I think if we could add some wording in there, just to avoid having that come up during discussions.
I'd be okay with that being added in there as well. Counselor Phillips?
Excuse me. Sorry, Counselor Hutchinson, are you thinking maybe once a council member has the opportunity to provide input or to not provide input? Like, is that kind of what you're thinking, or?
I'm thinking if something like if they choose to provide input, but just some wording so that we're not being targeted to speak on every item, because again, that's our right. If we choose not to speak, we don't have to speak on an item. So if it's clearer in there to say that, once every council member has had an opportunity to provide input, if they choose to provide input. I don't think that we should be forced around the room to go around the council chambers to add our thoughts about an item that we're discussing.
Counselor Chabot.
Madam Chair? If I could, I guess I have no problem leaving it the way it is. I think we all have a choice to say anything if we wish or not wish to. I have no problem just leaving it the way it is. I think it gives us that alternative anyway. I don't think we need to make it wordy and put that in there, is my thought.
Counselor Alt?
I'm on the other side of that. I agree with Councillor Hutchinson. Instead of being pinpointed or put on the spot, if we want to speak, we have that option. And we're always looking for clarity on these things, so I would be fine with that in there.
I'd be okay with having that in there as well. I think we can continue, Mr. Krause.
Okay, thank you. So then, I think we're just skipping right near the end. So section 41. So most of that is just changing committee of the whole to governance and priorities committee. In subsection F, we just added the word "a matter" just to make that sentence a little more clear. And then section 8 is just changing of name again. In section I, we just added a motion to put forward a recommendation to council meeting. So that just provides a little clarity to that sentence.
Thank you. Counselor Hutchinson.
Under 41D2, just some clarity on that. It says the proceedings will not be recorded except for the motions.
That's correct.
So, as in our minutes, because everything in because right now, Committee of the Whole, everything is being recorded. So I just was looking for clarity. Does recording mean not recorded by staff, or not recorded in the sense that it's live stream and being recorded?
We could, that's up to council, and we could provide clarity in there. The intention is, no, the conversation is not recorded in the minutes. But then committee of the whole or governance priority is for more open discussion. So you could interpret that is not recorded because it's a more open discussion. So I'll leave it to council of how you want it to proceed.
Counselor Phillips.
I am fine with just the motions.
Counselor Hutchinson.
So just the motions in the minutes,
Yes, in the minutes, yes.
but recorded, still being live streamed.
Okay, I think we're okay to continue when you're ready, Mr. Krause.
Sorry, just before we
Oh,
before we
sorry.
go on, I just had a question on 38, because we've already gone past it. 38, where it says counselors. Just says counselors should adhere to the code of conduct bylaw during the meeting, so under A, counselor shall adhere to code of conduct bylaw and during a meeting will not, and it spells out. I don't see anywhere in here that it talks about the chair or anyone other than counselors. Should that, is it somewhere else in the bylaw that I'm missing?
So Deputy Mayor, if you look back to the definitions, counselor means a member of council, including the mayor.
Okay.
So
that
you go back
fully-
to the definitions.
Okay, thank you.
We're okay to continue, please.
Okay, then, I think we're on Schedule A. So that's the orders of the day for a regular council meeting. So we struck out mayor's report, council committee reports, admin and CAO reports, and confirmation of the committee of the whole meeting. One, because the first three are shifted to the governance and priority committee. And if we establish a governance and priority committee, they will happen regardless, because your reports will be there, so there's no need to confirm them. And then under the closed session items, council CAO dialogue, so that is now a mandatory requirement under that agenda. And then the other one is just any closed session items under that section of the MGA.
Thank you. Just a moment, Councillor Shipholtz.
Yes, Madam Chair, if I can, to Mr. Crowe. So, we've had a tendency in the summertime not to have committee of the whole meetings, and there's been months where we've not had them, period. And this is when some of the reports are gonna come now forward to the newly minted GPC meetings. So are we now saying that we're gonna have them 12 months a year so that we bring reports up, or, because in the summertime, it was sort of a luxury not to have that second meeting of the month, but now are we gonna be compelled to have the second meeting of the month to bring these reports forward? Where is that? I'm just not sure how it's gonna wash going
Yeah,
forward.
So Deputy Mayor to Councilor Shipple, so if you go back to section 4B, it says governance priority committees shall be the second Tuesday of each month, now at 1 p.m., with the exception of July, August, and December. So council might want to review that now and decide if you want governance and priority committee meetings during those months.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, because if we're gonna do our reports at that point in time, then there's gonna be a large period of time where we're not gonna have a meeting to bring them forward, so we're gonna stockpile them, or, I don't know how we're gonna deal with them, I just want clarity on that, so.
So Deputy Mayor, that's what would happen, you would stockpile them, unless you decide, well, no, maybe we'll have one governance and priority committee in the summer, like August, for example. So you don't be missing a month versus 2 months.
Councillor Phillips?
Yeah, I would be fine having one in either July or August, either or, just so that we're not stockpiling things for 3 months. And, you know, if we do end up having a point where we need a meeting in December, then of course we can just make that happen as a council. But yeah, I would be fine with whether it's July or August, whichever one, then we're not stockpiling things for 3 months.
I'd be okay with that too. I don't really have a preference for which month that would be. I guess I could go either way. I'm fine if we stockpile, I'm fine if we add a meeting. Councillor Phillips?
I will suggest August, just for moving things forward.
Yep. Are we okay with that? Okay.
So the
Councillor
question is, rather than having a GPC meeting, can we bring our reports forward to a regular council meeting in the summertime? rather than bringing it forward to this newly minted meeting? Is that, I mean, this bylaw doesn't allow that. It says they're gonna all come to a governance meeting. But can we make a provision in there that should there not be a governance committee meeting, that we can bring reports forward just to our normal council meeting?
So Deputy Mayor, the way we would work that is when we go to Schedule B, we could put mayor activity and committee report, unless by resolution, put to a regular council meeting. So you could, that way you could, in June, you could say, pass a resolution saying, let's bring our council and mayor report to the July and August meetings, for example.
I think I'd be in favor of that, because I don't want to start, I mean, the summer this year was kind of a bonus not to have all the meetings, so I would not like to clutter it up again. I would sooner see that as an option for a resolution to be made in June to bring it forward to council meetings in July and August, or whenever necessary.
I think I actually like that idea better myself as well. Okay, so I think we're clear on that.
Okay, so that brings us to Schedule B, which is the terms of reference for the Governance and Priorities Committee. So the first part of it is just the orders of the day. And I think the biggest change there also is we've added in admin reports. So council would get a report from each department. I mean, I wouldn't bring the directors in for the committee of the whole meeting unless they're required, but it provides just knowledge to council and the public of what each department is up to. And then the CAO council dialogue would be more focused on organization versus routine activities. So just going through the terms of reference, so the purpose. Basically, it's a forum for discussion rather than decision-making, is the principle behind it. And of course, it's advisory, and everything would have to be brought up to a council meeting for formal decision. So just going through the principles of operation, A is just saying it's a public meeting. That's in accordance to the MGA. All meetings are public, unless you have to go into closed session. B is just saying that the committee can hear delegations. C, the committee can discuss matters referred to the committee by council. So council, at a council meeting, you can push something back down to a governance and priority committee if you want more fuller discussion. D, new and revisions to existing bylaws and policies were reviewed by the GPC prior to going to a council agenda. So what this stipulates, every amendment or draft bylaw or policy will automatically come to the JPC or GPC before we take it to council. Unless it's emergent, but, because I think that's what I heard council ask for, right? Okay. So reports or studies that have been commissioned by the town, those will come to the GPC first also for discussion before anything goes to council on that report or study. Then F is just the GPC will hear and discuss the mayor's and council's activities and committee reports. A list of all the committees that council members are appointed to will be listed in the agenda. So that's, we put that in there, so it's just a reminder, here's all your committees are on, and then it just lets other councilors know, hey, what's happening on this committee type of thing, so. The GPC will review reports, minutes, and requests from external boards and committees. So anything coming from an external board or committee will come to the GPC for discussion before it goes to council.
Sorry, Mr. Kraus, just a moment. Councillor Schipel.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay. Madam Chair. To Mr. Kraus, I just want a process question. So we have a discussion at the GPC meeting. How does it go? Do we make a motion to take it to council, or what's the process at that meeting to get it to go back to council? Or we
Yeah.
just talk
So-
about it and then administration puts it on the agenda, or what's the
No,
process?
it's a rise and report motion. So the committee makes the formal decision to bring it up to council.
Okay.
You can continue,
Okay.
please.
Then the next section is just roll them in, so we repair the agenda and reports. It's just the same as the council meeting, we provide advice and information. And then, the committee can ask administration questions, during it. It's not as formal, I think it's more of a discussion, so.
Counselor Hutchinson.
I have, I don't know if there's a question or whether I bring it forward as a notice of motion, but I would like to have conversation on whether or not council would want to put an add to our procedural bylaw, something, a section in there on leave of absence by counselors, by council, and some clarity, some definition. We've been struggling with that right now, so again, it can come forward as a notice of motion to be discussed at a council meeting, or if you all have no desire to have that conversation or have anything added. Some other municipalities do have it added to their procedural bylaws, so just for clarity.
Counselor Phillips.
I agree with Counselor Hutchinson. I think it's something that, you know, you don't know you need something until you know you need something, and I think that it's probably something for clarification we should have in our bylaw for sure.
Counselor Schiffel.
Deputy Mayor. Madam Chair, where does the ruling fall right now? Because we're in that situation today. And we had a discussion about taking a period of time off without question. So is there legislation, or is it in the Municipal Government Act, or there's got to be something in place already because it's happening? Is this request a duplication of what's already in place someplace else, or what's the normal on this? If I could ask administration for clarity on that.
So in the Municipal Government Act, a member of council can miss 8 consecutive weeks, starting with the first missed regular council meeting, before it'd be called disqualified. But they can do those 8 weeks without any formal approval of council. That would be up to the individual councillor. Now, those 8 weeks go away if a councillor requests a leave and council grants that. That's under the MGA. But in town policy, we don't have anything that addresses that. If you do that, you know, are you still paid? And in our current policy, you're still paid, right? Even if you miss 2 months. So.
Counselor Hutchinson.
But my understanding is if we have something, a description, the conditions around it, anything like that, in our bylaw, that would be in effect, or does that kind of out-trump what the MGA says, if it's in our bylaw, for lack of better words?
Well, you can't out-trump the MGA by a bylaw, but I guess I would need to know exactly what conditions you're looking for to put in your procedural bylaw, to say it fits or it doesn't fit with the MGA.
I guess my thoughts are just, you know, a typical HR policy which deals with staff, and because we aren't staff, we're council, we've got a different rule book. But there's always, if my staff, Dave's staff, whoever came and said that they're taking a leave of absence, they're required to bring a medical note or an explanation or something. So I feel like if we could put some guidance, or, you know, maybe if council is taking a leave of absence, it is to be a statement made. I don't know, just some clarity, because it's definitely can be a struggle without the clarity.
Councillor Alt?
I agree with Councillor Hutchinson. If whether this is the right policy to put it in or not, I'm not 100% sure. I think it is, but if we're elected to this position and we've accepted the position, I believe we should be held accountable for that position. So if we're gonna miss a month or 2 months worth of meetings and our elected duties, then I think there should be something in there that it is an unpaid leave, or if it's an extended absence. Now, I don't know how in detail we need to get with it, but I definitely agree that there needs to be some formal, like, we can't trump the MGA, but we can add on to what the MGA says, so I 100% agree with you.
Councillor Hutchinson?
I think another topic that comes up under that would be maternity leave or paternity, which isn't included anywhere in the MGA. I mean,
Yes, it is.
Oh,
Yeah,
oh, yes, you're
yeah.
allowed to,
Council can pass a bylaw for maternity or paternity leave.
yeah, and that's where I'm getting at. We have nothing. We have no bylaw in place, and is that something as well to be considering under our procedural bylaw, that we have something in there for maternity leave in case Len gets pregnant? I don't know. I'm looking for direction, because I just think that, you know, we're always talking about being accountable for all of our actions, and, you know, accountable to the public and the taxpayers. And when we don't really have any clarification outside of the MGA, it can be a struggle.
I think that's fair. If there are other municipalities that have something like this in their procedure bylaw, is it possible to maybe see what they have and come up with something that we can use?
Yeah,
Essentially.
we can. We would have to bring it back to a council meeting for discussion, because we only have 2 left to year end. And if you want to pass this for time changes for January, we have to do it in December. I'm not sure I'm clear on council's direction of what you are trying to put into this bylaw. I mean, I'm hearing 2 things: requiring notification of some sort, and then compensation.
Councillor Phillips?
And I can just throw the suggestion out, and council can like it or not like it. I think we're just basically looking for something. If an individual asks for a leave, here's the steps that are followed. You know, that it's requested. This is now what happens next. This is now what happens next. This is now what happens next. Just kind of a basis of what's going on. How does the public? What do we do with the public? Do the residents? Is there an announcement to the residents? Is there no announcement? Just clarification on how it's handled, as opposed to just something ambiguous that gets asked for, and then what do we do with that information, or how do we handle it? You know, especially beyond the 8-week period. Like what happens after the 8-week period? I know the MGA says it, but should it also be in our procedural bylaw as well?
I think there's reference to it in the Code of Conduct bylaw.
And maybe that's the place it should be, is the Code of Conduct bylaw. I don't know, or maybe it's a procedural. I don't know where that where that would fit in, if it fits best in procedural or code of conduct bylaw, I don't know.
Counselor Hutchinson.
So would we be looking at, accepting the procedural bylaw, today with the changes that has been suggested? And then on a separate issue, it would be a notice of motion to bring back, a draft, leave of absence section policy, something
I-
that, where we're going?
Deputy Mayor, I would suggest what council's looking for is probably better handled in the code of conduct bylaw than a procedural bylaw. And then, to answer Councillor Hutchins' question, so it'd be two motions then. One would be to rise and report the procedural bylaw as amended to the council meeting. And then instruct administration to provide a revised code of conduct bylaw for council's consideration, which would go, and that's up to council, if you want it, how quick, but to either a council meeting or it go to the January Governance and Priority Committee for review.
Okay. Counselor Phillips.
Then I am prepared to make a motion that council, or that the committee of the whole rise and report the amended draft procedural bylaw 2023/14 to the December 5th, 2023 regular council meeting for council's consideration.
Okay, thank you for your motion. Do we have any discussion on the motion? Okay, we'll call that to a vote. Those in favor and none opposed, so that is carried. And are we looking for another motion now then, or is it a notice of motion maybe that would be? Counselor Hutchinson.
The notice of motion can be made now?
So that'd be Mayor, it wouldn't be a notice of motion, because the notice of motion would just
Right,
be
okay.
advising council that you want to bring up that motion at the next committee of the whole meeting.
Okay,
So
so
it'd be an instruction to administration.
okay, so instruct admin to revise code of conduct bylaw to add, leave of absence section, and bring back to the, what's our new meeting called? GPC meeting in January.
Okay, thank you for your motion. Counselor Schipel, some discussion?
Yes, Deputy Mayor. Well, I appreciate the motion on the floor. I guess what I'm looking for is I'd like to see other communities and what they've done. When you start talking about health issues, about individuals, and trying to handle that, because you never know who's going to have an episode for whatever reason. And so rather than us drafting the new bylaw, let us look first at what other communities do, and then give us a bit of idea, so we'll have an informed decision down the road. And if we then choose to make a change to the code of conduct bylaw, we can. But I think we need to know how other communities deal with it. I mean, there's serious situations health-wise that can come across any one of us around here, and we have to look at every alternative. So I would request that we do not make the revision to that bylaw, but ask for just information prior to, so we have an idea what's going on.
Counselor Hutchinson?
Oh, wait a minute, still on. Yeah, that would be appropriate to bring back to the January meeting, information on a leave of absence policy to be included in our code of conduct bylaw. If that's enough clarity.
Is that motion okay?
It's not a motion. Was it a motion? Oh. 7 o'clock, you guys.
So do we have any other discussion on the motion? Okay, so I will call that to a vote. Those in favor and none opposed, that is carried. Okay, so moving ahead, new business, 7.1, we have an RFD tax relief policy. Mr. Kraus?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. So on tax relief. So we have provided 4, and you'll see they vary from one end to the other. So administration is just looking for direction from council. One, if council wants a tax relief policy, and if they do, what's included and what is not.
Counselor Schippel.
Deputy Mayor. Those, all 4 of them are right from one end of the gamut to the other. They truly are. The City of Edmonton one, though, it takes in so many of the little snippets out of that, whereas the county one, County of Strathcona, I think it was, I thought was maybe more appropriate for what we're looking for. It was all about fires. But I think that if we have any question around taxation, the more broad that policy becomes, the more questions it answers down the road. So I think that we should have a look at bringing something forward and maybe making it a bit more broad than just about a house fire. So it talks about assessment in there, it talks about all kinds of things. So I think my suggestion is we move forward and create that policy and take a hybrid, maybe not from just one, but a few of them, if it's all possible, and take things that we've seen in the past a little bit here in Rocky Mountain House and just incorporate them into that.
Okay. Does anybody else have anything to add? Counselor Hutchinson.
Out of the 4, I found the Leduc and St. Albert policies were much more appropriate for what I think we would be looking at. I liked the idea that the ones that say what they do not cover, when they do not, so telling you what you can't come for tax relief on made it a little more clear than Edmonton's was just way too much, way too detailed.
I thought so too. Counselor Phillips.
Yeah, I agree with both Councillor Hutchinson and Schippel. We don't want it to be so broad that it becomes tough to manage and tough to make considerations on. Simple, what is allowed and what isn't allowed. Very simple, very easy to read, and not too broad that it creates problems for future councils with decisions.
Counselor Schippel.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. It was, there's a pretty consistent thing about the fires though, where they, if in the case of a fire where they look at the improvement and the assessors come up with a value as to what, I mean, these towns all got their own in-house assessors, but come up with what the amount of tax is that would be determined as a refund. So I think that that's the just in the majority of them there. So, and I think that's what we're looking, or what I'm looking for anyway, is that process. So.
Counselor Hutchinson.
I remember talking, this came up about the tax relief on a couple different residential properties earlier, and we had discussed about putting on, was it the back page or adding on to our tax notice when, if you don't get it in the mail on time, if you don't, you won't be eligible for tax relief. Did we do, because those were things that came up, the same kind of, well, not the same as the fire issue, but did we make those changes? I know we talked about it at one time.
So Deputy Mayor, yeah, 99% sure we did. I would have to physically look at it, but I know, I'm pretty sure Finance did that.
So I think we're maybe in agreement that we do want to move ahead with a policy for tax relief. I think that's what I'm hearing. Councillor Schippel.
I'll make the motion. Let it resolve that the Committee of the Whole instruct administration to draft a tax relief policy and bring it to the December 19th, 2023 regular council meeting for council's consideration. I'm not sure if that gives administration enough time or if they'd like to move that into next year. will, the date was December 19th.
As long as I think I have it clear what council's envisioning, so what I'm hearing is to use the St. Albert policy as a template, but fire would move out of the one section into the other. Is that correct?
There's so much information between all of them, got me lost on this one. I guess what I'm looking for is that we look for what's most consistently brought forward in here. Thing like deaths, if, somebody passes, damage, I mean, there's several different things. I think we just have to come up with something that works for us that we normally would see around here, or have come up with in the last 3 or 4 years. Just going through that, and for sure address the fire issue at the same time.
Councillor Phillips?
Yes, just maybe, potentially having a friendly amendment to your motion. To me, this is gonna require some discussion, even when we have this policy come back, because we aren't 100% sure what we're looking for, and I think admin is gonna do their best to take this conversation and make it happen, but I would suggest that maybe instead of the December 19th regular council meeting, that we go to the Committee of the Whole, or GPC, whatever we're gonna call it, in January, then we can have a broader discussion at that point. And that'll give admin a little more time to look at it, because we do have budget considerations coming up that will require a fair amount of time. Just a friendly amendment.
Councillor Schiffel?
Deputy Mayor, I think it's up to Mr. Kraus, if whatever his timeline, I'm in favor of that as well. The only thing I question is if we have a complainant that's brought their concern forward, is there a point in time when that becomes a null and void complaint due to a time aspect, or because we have it here, we're creating something to look after that, we're good to go? Just
We would have to write that in the policy that it's effective for 2023 for council's consideration,
okay.
if it went to January.
Okay, I'm okay with it moving to the meeting in January to the GPC meeting.
Okay. Do we have any further discussion on the motion? So I will call that to a vote. Those in favor? And none against. That is carried. Okay, so no correspondence for action today, no correspondence for information. So we have our action list. Mr. Kraus? There is, yeah.
So, Deputy Mayor, so for the Mayor's Awards program, so I think we've discussed it with the Chamber, and it's gonna be in the 2024 budget. I think Ms. Breeze has had that discussion, getting for solid numbers. The award program policy, that's going to January, GPC. It's on the schedule, or Committee of the Whole as it stands today. And that is it.
Any questions or anything for Mr. Kraus? Councillor Phillips?
I will make a motion to accept the action list for November 28th as presented.
Thank you. Any discussion on the motion? Okay, we'll call that to a vote. Those in favor? And none opposed? Thank you. So moving on to 11, administrative inquiries. Do we have any of those this evening? No? Oh, Councillor Wald.
I just have a quick inquiry regarding the museum meeting that I attended the other day. There was a long-term debt on the books from the museum, from the town, regarding the initial trenching of power and whatnot to the site that was on their books, and I'm just wondering if it's still on our books, or if we've written off that debt, or,
No, so the deputy mayor, so the history behind that is the town, I think it was 75,000, if I
somewhere in there.
somewhere in there. So the town put up 75,000. It was actually a grant to the museum when they built the structure. The condition at that time was if that structure ever burnt down or was destroyed, that they had to pay back the town that $75,000. And I believe, I'm looking at Councillor Phillips and maybe Councillor Auld, but the previous council, we addressed that, and I think that caveat was taken off. Because it always showed on their books as a deficit, and they always complained about it, because it always showed that they're in a, that type of financial position. But I think the previous council passed a resolution, and I would have to verify that, that condition was no longer there.
Okay,
That sounds right. It's been a number of years, and
Yeah.
I just can't fully remember.
I mean, because the town itself didn't find any written record of that requirement. It was kind of just through past minutes and discussion that we discovered it.
okay, thank you. Any other administrative inquiries this evening? Okay, any notices of motion? Okay, and so I think now we will move into closed session. So I just need a motion. Sorry. Actually, do we want to take a break first and then come back to a motion and go into closed session, or? I'm just wondering for the ladies in the room. Okay. Okay, so a motion then to go into closed session?
I'll make a motion that we go into closed session.
Okay, those in favor of the motion and unopposed? Thank you. We are back, and we don't have any resolutions or motions coming out of closed session this evening. So with that being said, I will adjourn the meeting at 7:32 PM. Thank you.